Okay. We can get started. Today is our budget presentation workshop. So we're going to begin with a brief presentation, and then we're going to roll into our individual department presentations. So we have 4 of them tonight. One will be the town comptroller's office, the legal department, IT services, as well as the town assessor. So we'll get started. Sure. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that works. So I'd like to begin with a budget overview. And these are our big numbers. So this is our general fund appropriations. It's roughly $12 million. Just underneath that, it's $11,840,000. We have our highway fund appropriations, just under $4 million at $3,957,000. So you have our total appropriations are approximately 16 million, so just under at 15,798,000. Next, we have our levy for the general fund levy. It's just under 5 million at 4.9 million, and we have our highway fund levy at just under 3.5 million. That gives us a total of 8,467,000. For our budget drivers, these are the big numbers that make up big chunks of our budget. So they're spread out evenly amongst the departments, roughly so. But all together, you can really see where the impacts come from in the total budget for general fund and highway. So the key expenses for the general fund, salaries, full-time and part-time, these are always our biggest expenditure. So this figure here includes overtime. It's just over $6 million. Our next biggest expenditure is employee benefits. So this includes health insurance, vision, dental, retirement benefits. And this figure is at 3.3 million, so just under 3.4 million. We also have an appropriation line, our county UCC dispatch. This is $567,248. That figure did go up slightly this year. But again, it's a needed service. All of the towns fund this service. So this is the town of Niskuna share. And then we also have our serial bonds and notes. So this is our debt. These are the principal and interest payments. So for 2020, it's going to be $279,000, just over that. We have for key revenues. So next slide. Oh, great, thank you. So our key revenues for the general fund, we have real property taxes at just under 5 million at 4.9 million. We have sales tax revenue, which is at 3,350,000. And we have state aid, which is comprised of mortgage tax and the aid and incentive to municipalities. So that total mortgage tax combined with AIM is $701,675. So we're projecting out approximately $600,000 for mortgage tax. That amount has decreased year over year. Next, we have our highway fund key expenses. And again, our largest share of expense comes from salaries, full-time and part-time, including overtime. And that amount comes to $1,354,000. We also have employee benefits in the highway fund as well, and that's comprised of same factors as from the general fund. So that's health, vision, dental, as well as retirement benefits. So that's at $850,000. And then again, we have our serial bond and notes. So that's our debt, and that's at $477,000. For key revenues for the highway fund, we have real property taxes at approximately 3.5 million. And we have our state aid from CHIPS, which is 162,000. Next, we have our key challenges. This was a challenging budget to put together. One of the reasons why it was so challenging is coupled with our contractually obligated salary increases, which were a lot. We had to also add new positions in order to comply with state mandates. So implemented this year were discovery laws that were updated. So we are projecting that we're going to add 2 part-time employees to cover that process. So we'll see how it goes. We're hoping that those 2 part-time individuals can successfully handle the workload that they're going to be undertaking coming forth.
But I just want to clarify what you just said.
Mhm.
Those positions themselves are not mandated. We're choosing to.
Correct. Yes. Yep.
And where are we putting them?
They're going to be coming out of the police department budget.
Okay.
Then we also had a projected health insurance premium increase. Right now in this budget, we have the projection set at 15%. At one point in time, we thought it might be as high as 20%. We're hoping it's not going to be as high as 15. But again, this number may or may not fluctuate between now and the preliminary budget and possibly even between now and the final budget. So that's a number that we're going to be fine tuning as we continue to go forward. And we're just going to have to keep our fingers crossed and shop the market and see what happens on that.
So Paul, when will we know that?
I think they said 2 to 4 weeks. Hopefully closer to 2. We're pushing them. They not only need the number. It was sounding like before the preliminary budget's out.
Great. Thank you.
That's good. So with a 15% projected increase that amounted to roughly $220,000 in the general fund and roughly $71,500 to the highway fund. So significant increase, but it's necessary for our employee benefits. So other towns are experiencing this too. It's not just Niskuna. We're not isolated on this front. And other towns, you know, we all have to bear the burden of this. So we also had a county UCC dispatch appropriation increase of approximately $11,000. So that was factored into the budget as well. And our mortgage tax projection revenue at this point in time has decreased by approximately $20,000. And then we're also projecting our sales tax revenue to be flat year over year. So these are the particular challenges when you're staring in the face of rising overhead costs, coupled with either flat or decreasing revenues. That's always a challenge to put together a budget.
Why is the mortgage tax registry revenue decreased? Why has the mortgage tax revenue decreased?
It's a good question. I just yesterday got some information from the county, and I haven't had a chance to put that in. I was trying for a week to get it. But just the economy, I guess. I don't know.
Because we do have that new development coming in, Harmon Grove. I know you included some of that last year. Did we have an off year in terms of sales last year? Is that what this is based on?
No, I can show you the detail. I get monthly mortgage tax numbers from the county, and the refinancing was a big thing going back, up to 3 years ago when rates dropped, and I think, eventually everyone refinances. So that's one factor. And it just seems that people aren't turning over houses like they used to. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but the numbers are what they are.
Mm-hmm.
But I would be glad to share my spreadsheet that kept track of mortgage tax revenue for over 10 years. And yeah, it was up to almost $1 million back when it peaked. Broke 900,000, and we're down. Last year was 600, so we came in under budget last year.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm surprised to see that.
Yeah, I do look for anomalies like large commercial mortgages and back those out and give them, because they happen very infrequently. So you can't just use the raw data. You've got to kind of massage it a little bit. But not looking great.
Okay, thank you.
So lastly, we have the budget accomplishments. Even given all of those challenges, tentative budget has no cuts to services, no cuts to personnel, and in fact, we were able to add new positions to comply with state mandating, no tax increase, and we were under the tax cap. So that concludes the budget presentation. We're going to move on to our individual department presentations. Whoever wants to go first. So I don't know if Bill is here. Doesn't look like it. Oh, he is. Oh, okay. Bill's filming. Great. Do you want to go first, Bill? Okay.
How are we gonna do this?
You want to pull that table back?
Pull it back a little bit.
Yeah. That's great. So before we start, Paul, you did a great job on this. Thank you very much. I'm pleased to see all the things you were able to accomplish, especially considering that there was an attempt to raise taxes last year. We held them at the 2% that we had done before. We did a 0. So I'm glad to see we were able to stay at that 0 this year. I know you don't love it as much as everybody else in the room does, but I appreciate your work on that.
I love it personally.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad you're at least able to admit that as a Niskuna resident. Why did we get it so late? I didn't get it till 9:30. I was already getting calls from people asking for it. I just don't know what happened. It never, and then this is my 9th one, 10th one. I can't even count 10th. I've never, it's just, so it was hard then to turn around, and then I didn't have the right document for some reason, shockingly.
It took the time it took. The only thing I guess I had trouble getting some of the information from different areas, and there was a couple last minute issues that came up. I'd have to say it's not the latest one I filed. I recall filing them closer to midnight, but I agree. And it's often held till 5 o'clock, but as soon as it was done,
Okay,
I guess maybe I'm overcautious with checking and double checking, and I think with our new staff, it'll definitely be better in future years, but I didn't, Nicole's not quite up to speed with the budget to get her involved in it, and some of these things, takes longer to show someone how to help you than to do it
sure,
yourself. And
absolutely.
that was the case this year. Next year, I would say that'll be entirely different.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Hi, Bill. Where do we start for Bill?
So,
What page?
we are on page 6, the bottom of the page, and I'm always upside down at the bottom of the page
Yeah.
for some reason.
Let's get that one.
So, basically what we did here is, the same thing that we do every year. The majority of these line items are for, software maintenance costs.
Mhm.
They're ongoing every year, and they typically go up. And between Paul and I, we've kind of settled on about a 3% increase per line item in general. Now, some companies will give us a written estimate, or actually a written notice of what the bill is going to be in the coming year. And an example of that would be the planning department, safety planning and zoning. As you can see, that one went up quite a bit, which is typical for this particular software that they use in that department. They tend to have large increases. But the other ones, we're just using basically a 3% rule of thumb in most cases. And then the last item, miscellaneous and contractual, Paul and I talked about this morning. It was an error that should be, well, actually that line item is correct, 13,000. But what we did, what Paul did is broke out, excuse me, $6,000 to put into a separate line item, which was an oversight. It didn't make it on here. But we're going to have a $6,000 in a separate line item to cover our cloud-based backup services.
So this -5 here from miscellaneous contractual
Right.
is
Well, I had
going to be back
requested,
in.
I had requested 19,000.
Yeah,
Item.
I'd have to take the blame for that one. What we do when some of these miscellaneous lines get excessively large and there are, major components in them, and it serves us better for budgeting and monitoring. We break out that specific function, such as Bill saying this new cloud storage that we started, I think in 18 when the budget went up, just to make it easier to identify and, make miscellaneous, which should be the smallest
Right.
catch-all
Yeah.
line. And I had a note and missed it.
Okay, so is that,
My late filing.
that 5 or 6 in the miscellaneous and contractual for the cloud-based system, is that what's referred to earlier in the budget as the infrastructure investment for 2020 of an IT system? Or where is that? Because this is hailed on the first page as one of the major accomplishments of this budget.
Of the 2020.
Yeah. Investments in our infrastructure.
We've been doing.
Provides funding for an IT system replacement.
Cloud storage has gone on since 18.
Right.
I'd say, no, that's not, that's nothing new.
So where's, Bill, what are we talking about here for this major infrastructure investment?
We routinely replace
Yeah.
Right,
and
it's just
upgrade.
the standard, what we've
Correct.
done on a regular basis. Okay, I got excited that there was going to be some new and, okay,
Yeah.
it's just our standard upgrades, maintenance. Sure, and you worked very hard on that, I know that, Bill.
Hardware upgrades.
Okay, but there's no big increase in here that's not reflected
No. there's
to,
no-
for major infrastructure investment. Okay, thank you.
And the increase for the controller's office of 5,400, that's new software for your office?
That's that time and
It's a new,
attendance.
right, that we've talked about.
We bonded back in, it's over a year now. We were just on the phone with them. We're having trouble getting on their schedule. I guess it's very popular, but we're trying to lock in a date. We have now done the hardware upgrades that were necessary, and we're ready to go. I want to get it in place. We have the money, and it's just a matter of timing, getting on the schedule, and it's a whole implementation. You have to install it, train on it, and
But you thought ultimately this system was going to save you time and then save us some money down the road, correct?
yeah, oh yeah, it's a biometric system that feeds into payroll, so there's no keying of time cards. So there's a big savings there. There's management of the software, and there's glitches that come up, and you have to manually do upgrades, and there's involvement, but there should be much more accuracy. And we have had a couple minor instances where there's been some misrecorded time, I'd have to say. So hopefully that'll alleviate that problem. No? Is it this? Scratchy.
All right,
Yeah.
we
There you go, Paul.
Teamwork.
We're back.
Process of elimination.
Right.
Thank you.
So yeah, we are looking forward to that, and it is expensive, but you saw the salaries on the screen. If you can save 1% of that, I mean, we work on many of the employees work on an honor system, just hand signed in. There's, so
Yeah, we've discussed
Most
that
of the
before.
place, yeah.
time's money.
Yeah.
Where in the budget is website maintenance? Does that fall under central data processing in this section, or is that elsewhere?
That would be under line 4,600, miscellaneous and contractual.
Okay, so we have a contract to somebody to come in and maintain our website or
They
do
don't
it from the
come in,
fair?
no. They don't come in, they host it. It's called Civic Plus. It's
Okay.
a national company. They've been hosting it. They started out as virtual town hall. We migrated to them.
Oh, right,
many,
right, I
many
remember
years
that.
ago, but they were bought out by Civic Plus, which is a very large web design and maintenance company. We do all of the updates, the content management, myself and Laura and a couple of other people. But the actual website itself is hosted by Civic Plus.
Right. To ultimately do some sort of redesign, is that something that they would do to make it more user-friendly? Because we've heard that's from residents. Would there be a cost
Oh, yeah.
to
Yeah,
that?
We did a major update.
A couple of years ago,
Yeah.
Probably
Three
three,
years ago,
more
4
than
years ago.
Nicole was involved in
Time
it, so.
flies.
when we went to the
4 years
system
ago.
where they can't email us directly, but put in
We
those
did,
things.
yeah, we did a major overhaul about 4 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And each time you do something like that, it costs about how much?
That one, I believe, it was about $10,000, if I remember correctly, which we paid over 3 years'
like-
time.
Does anyone even know?
Okay, thank you.
And obviously contained in all of this is the issue we were discussing today, where if we have spyware or malware or something that's going on with our emails, you're able to access one of these contracts that you have to be able to, or is that law left to you? I mean, where I'm clearly having an issue that's been ongoing with my town hall emails, and
Yeah,
they're somehow
I
being
man-
compromised.
I managed the email myself.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate your efforts very much, as you could tell. Is that it for Bill?
Mine's easy.
Mhm. Pretty
There we go.
straightforward. Thanks, Bill.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Bill.
Okay. Who wants to go next?
Hamburger, come on.
Who's on?
All right.
We should have made you
You're
go
up
first
there.
altogether, so you
I
have
know.
no idea what to do.
Page 4.
Okay, can't wait.
Okay, well, this budget's pretty straightforward. I have no equipment, no large outlays. The biggest things we have is the Board of Assessment and Review. We have training and memberships, it's up this year. I do have state mandated training that I have to go through. That's something where the town will pay up front for the training and the associated costs, but a good portion of that will be reimbursed by the state. So some of that 3120 will be coming back to the town.
Okay,
I have supplies and materials just to make sure that our office runs.
you don't have to go through line by line. We'll grill Paul now. How's that?
Okay,
So Paul, going from the 180, 724 to the 167 is just the salary change? The adapted to the tentative?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so then now this is where we're at a disadvantage. So we don't then have what was requested. We don't have one document that has,
Salaries.
do you have that? Do you have a line on there that has the requested? I don't.
Where are you looking?
I'm looking at his, so.
Is that the one I gave
The
you?
requested
Yes.
was
So It's in the
167.
board.
405.
Okay, and the board one, my board
Yep.
one doesn't have the first few pages on anything on the,
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
I delegated the copying responsibility and I guess it's fine. I'll
Okay.
take the blame.
no, don't, I don't want to, all right,
I
so
don't know what
it just
happened.
makes it a little harder. So we're still on Eric. So the $13,000, see, now if I go to this one, I can just say the number. The 13,000 is just the salary differential between somebody that was here for
It's
25 years and,
Correct. And
Okay.
it's not the whole salary difference because some of the salary is allocated to special districts.
right. Okay, that was my only real question on it. Oh, I guess then, No, this budget explains it differently than this one. I'm good. Appraisals and administration looks different in the other budget, so, but I've got it. Thank you.
Great. You're all done.
Questions?
See, there you go.
Easy.
That was easy. Good thing you picked the first day, right? Okay. The choice is Paul Briggs or Paul Sebesta. Which Paul? We'll get them both up here. Yeah,
Briggs
the Pauls.
first, yeah.
You said you weren't coming.
I didn't say that.
Oh.
Are you feeling better?
Alexis shamed me into coming.
All right.
Where does, oh, I saw Briggs.
Page
Page 5.
5.
So I was trying to decipher this so that I could tell. I know Paul splits up our legal fees.
Personal services,
Right.
yes, there's some allocation,
To special districts.
right?
So within,
It's not identified in here anywhere.
what's not identified there
The
anywhere?
breakdown of personal services to special districts.
And playing the role of Rich Pollock today will be the old lady. Can we get that?
We're going to find it.
We can, I don't have it with me, but. we
Yes, I
can-
knew you didn't have it with you. That's, I know what question to ask. So can we get that?
Absolutely.
Okay, that would be great.
And also circulated to the board members, we have 3 pages of supplemental documentation that
Yes.
also gives the total. It won't give you the breakdown between districts, but if you need to see impact year over year and the total salary, then
Just the
That's the
total
last 3
salary and
pages.
what, yeah.
correct.
That's on here someplace.
Yeah, but it's not, the allocation isn't here.
Now what's
Not the
total?
allocation.
No, just the salary
But the
schedule is in
totals.
here. I had requested the salary schedule be
Okay.
within our budget
Gotcha.
number. So,
Okay.
so your individual number is in here, but it's not your total department number.
The only other question I had was, and I don't know how it's reflected, is how are fines handled that go to court? Are they transferred from
To general fund, right, Paul?
Mhm.
general fund?
The justice gives us their whole amount that's assessed, I guess, or whatever the fine is. And we're informed from the state how much we have to remit to the state. And, there's different percentages based on speeding, parking, whatever the violation is.
What about building code violations? Because for instance, there's a plea bargain next week where the
How would they
defendant's
come in?
paying $5,000
So
as a
this wouldn't
fine.
be a traffic, this would be,
A straight,
if it come through the justice?
yes.
Come in the same way.
Okay.
We don't get a lot of those.
I know.
But he gets dog violations and he gets,
Yeah, I don't really, I can't really tell what
Okay.
the source of the revenue is. We get a check from the justice, from each individual justice for 20,000 each.
The only other,
25 each.
Yeah.
so we can't get an income and expense on what fines
I think,
raise.
I think we could. The difficulty is when the state just sends us a request and it's hard to determine. You can't go one for one.
Right, but we would know what the
Yeah.
income is on fines and what
Yeah.
then the expense,
Oh, yeah.
the check we have to write out for is,
Okay.
like a lot of the things.
the other question I had was I had spoke about increasing part of our budget so that we could cover some of the cost of declaring abandoned properties, doing the legal work for the recording costs and the publication notices and all of that. Where are we covering that, Paul? Do you want that to come out of our budget, or
So what is the actual?
The zombie properties, cleaning up the zombie properties.
we be paying the county clerk and I guess publication fees? Who do we pay on those, Alexis?
$3.95 to record it, but we'll get reimbursed if we were to transfer it to land bank, but it needs to be, we need to at least have the money in our budget.
Mhm.
Do we have to publish in any newspapers?
We have to serve, not in newspapers, we can serve,
But we have service fees and filing fees.
Okay.
Well, I would think that'd be the legal recording fee, but you had noted to drop it, so I reduced it. In here.
So it's got to be paid for someplace.
Okay, so you don't drop the number.
Right.
Is this
So-
you?
That's why I raised it from 400 to 2,000, not going from 400 down to 200.
Oh, there's
Oh,
two.
geez.
Oh, I thought that was
Two there.
strange. Paul,
Somebody
did you have a
dropped
meeting to
zero.
discuss your budget? Because a lot of the department heads did, and I sat in those meetings, so now I'm a
No.
little at a
I
disadvantage
just
with
gave
you.
Paul, I just marked up my.
Your budget,
last year's
okay.
Budget to show.
There's 2 zeros that are in a.
Doctors and lawyer
And maybe
handwriting, we know.
That's maybe my,
Okay, your wishful thinking? Yeah, that he was gonna,
So
all right,
I had raised line 4180 from 400 to 2,000 to
Okay.
cover.
okay.
Okay.
it's,
So,
So it's 1,600 different than the
Right.
2019.
Yes,
okay.
figuring about 2 or 3 properties a year,
It's good that you
potentially.
came tonight.
so.
Yeah, no
what
kidding.
Offsetting revenue, there is offsetting revenue?
So according, as Alexis stated, when if they're taken over by is it the county land bank?
Yeah.
Then they reimburse us for the recording costs, but they don't reimburse. Do they reimburse us for the service fees too?
Yeah.
All our expenses will be reimbursed if it's taken over by the county. So it should be a wash.
Mhm.
But not all of them are taken over by the land bank, like Mohawk Road the other day was not, right?
Right.
So, but we still have those expenses. But for most of them, I
Can we
think,
Lien them on a property?
I didn't hear the question.
Can we place a lien on the property for the?
I would like to try to, why
We can,
not?
Yes,
So they're all potentially reimbursable?
yes.
So I'll set up a revenue line
Okay,
for 1,600
good, yes.
or,
2,000.
2,000.
well, part of it is going to be our own legal recording fees for general that we've
Okay,
had all
then
along.
let's say 1,600 then, out of the 2,000.
Or do you want, we've been running 125, 130, or $35.
It's going to be more because I'm starting to go through files and finding
Okay.
some
So
easements that
1,600
weren't recorded.
1,600 revenue.
Yes. Sorry, I'm a little bit sketchy at this. For all these years, I've never even done this before.
No, no,
So it's
it's fine.
new to me. I really don't pay too much attention to numbers.
So we're only out $200.
Okay.
Not bad.
So where is it reflected in here, outside counsel, that he
That's
needs?
the legal services, 2,700.
That's enough. Oh, that, yeah, no. That's enough. And I don't even know what we have going on now. We have one.
We just have the
On-
one with the employment issues. It's the only one I know of.
Okay.
Last year.
We have one on a workers' comp issue, right, Paul, that has been ongoing
That's
and
what he's referring
That's the
to.
one. I'm
That's
talking
the-
about.
we're talking about the one person one.
Yes.
Not the other one where we've got the outside counsel for Binghamton to talk about a whole
That's the
host.
same one.
That's all, just one,
That's the same person.
It's the same.
Same person is doing both.
No, it's the same
Same issue.
issue.
Mhm.
There's only one circumstance really that there's outside counsel.
I thought we hired outside counsel
On workers' comp.
from workers' comp.
There's a
to
retirement.
retirement workers'
There's a
comp, Paul,
retirement,
yes.
but That's done this year. That work's been done.
That work's been done. There will be no further work and nothing happened with that.
Minor, very minor. if
Okay.
any.
And last year we had some issues where we hired some outside counsel on some labor issues that won't be this year. We won't need them again this year. Those were resolved last year with some contract negotiations.
And that all came in under the 2,700?
Yes.
Okay. And you don't feel like you need outside counsel for anything else? I mean, the legal opinion a day you're being required to write?
It's hard to
These days?
tell. It's hard to tell. I know that I wasn't directly involved, but in the special district meetings, I know that with the wastewater treatment plant, we had outside counsel extensively dealing
Mhm.
with our issues with the.
Yeah, for the
TDC.
most part, they do.
But I don't think that came out of, I think that was paid for through the
Special district,
special
Mhm.
district's budget directly as opposed to
Yep.
out of my budget.
right?
So I'm pretty good with that number, but I can't, you don't know. I'm hoping now with Alexis on board that I won't need outside help as much. So I'm pretty good with that number.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. Looks like you're all set.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay. On to Paul Sebesta.
So as you begin, is it going to be possible to get these documents merged so we can have one document?
I thought they were merged. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I don't. so
Okay,
what
oh, you
page-
think,
You're missing.
I don't have the beginning pages after the budget,
After the message,
after the message.
just the table
So
of
it's-
contents and.
Yeah, I start with the
Summary.
general fund. I don't have, in this original one that has all the lines, the tentative and the requested,
Right.
I don't have
Two
then,
pages, there's a summary
Yeah.
and the fund balance.
right.
Yeah.
I don't then have that going into, you
Oh, I
see,
see,
you
okay.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yasmin, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm missing
You too,
a
Bill?
cou-
Same thing?
Summary, but this,
He doesn't have then, he only has the one with, he has those couple of pages and he
page
doesn't have.
one, and then there is no page two. It goes table of contents. I don't know if that's page two. No?
Well, that's in backward. The table of contents should be first. I'm sorry,
That's okay,
Page
we'll try to.
two- Page two's missing then.
We'll show you. So, because
All
we're
right,
trying to
well-
get this moving along. There's people who have to go,
first
have
time,
very important meetings and things to do.
yeah, that was obviously a copying glitch.
Hmm.
All right, we're on page 3 at the bottom.
And so I just had one other question for you on the budget overall. What happened to the whole idea of participatory budgeting? I know, Yasmin, you had expressed an interest in that and you had attended that session. You spoke at it, I attended it. Did-
I think it's something that we could think about, but I think it's something that,
It's not reflected in here at all. There was
No.
nothing that
no, there's
maybe I
nothing
got
set
hit over the head and
aside
missed.
specifically.
So
And
the participatory
Right.
budget, where there was a lot of media attention to.
yeah,
not
I think
together.
if the town board as a whole, if we decide that we want to open up a particular line item for that purpose, I wouldn't make that decision unilaterally, however, so, no, that is not.
Yeah, I just didn't know what your
Mhm.
process was as it
Yep.
related to developing this. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Paul, where are we? 3?
Okay.
Bottom of 3?
Bottom of 3, yes. So our equipment was increased where we've had some problems with our folder sealer machine. Now with all of our, we have 2 large copiers, everything's working pretty well. So it's just really that folder sealer machine that's
Okay.
problematic and it's very expensive. And additionally, I put in time clocks in this. We need at least one of those biometric time clocks for town hall. So that's the they run $2,500 approximately to do a thumb scan. So I don't know where we're going to place it, somewhere in a central location near the entrance that hopefully the public won't, the
Yeah,
employees will
with-
have access and the public won't, be damaging it, but
So do we need to put it like in the hallway over here or
Yeah, it could-
someplace?
yeah.
It's not, you don't
That's-
want it out in the lobby or,
yeah, it's yet
under
to be
there.
determined. Yeah, it might make sense by the town clerk's office or I don't know. Because that's an employee-only section.
Okay.
But anyway, we need one of those. The training is up slightly. We have a new employee that I'd like to send to some classes. There's a couple New York State GFOA government finance officer courses. I try to use the local inexpensive ones, of course. Supplies stayed flat. We got rid of the consultant and miscellaneous went down slightly.
And just an explanation on the consultant, so nobody thinks that we got rid of an HR
No, the
person.
consultant is here now as the
Yes.
secretary to the supervisor.
Correct. So this money was reallocated back into the department. So Paul's been doing a great job of breaking out responsibilities amongst his staff so that there's going to be more of a dedication to HR just within his department. So rather than have a separate consultant that was broken out by a single line item, it's been reabsorbed into the budget.
Right. No, it's more important now than ever.
Right.
Where did it go?
HR isn't going away.
It's going
It's in
into
the
Paul's
budget.
office. So it was
Right,
the
but
HR consultant
to
that
a
Yasmin
particular-
had asked for to
Right.
hire Brian. She waited and she hired him as the confidential secretary instead. And so Paul's got that, isn't it?
I'm sorry, what?
Was
What was
that
that?
what, was that? It was Brian. He's got a different job, right? Is that what it is?
Which Brian are you
Brian
referring to?
Beckus?
So I was going to hire him as an HR
I don't,
consultant.
I'm sorry, that's what I thought we were doing. He's just got a different position, right?
He's currently the confidential secretary.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
No, that, it's really, I've been assigning Janet Nguyen, my assistant, more and more of the HR responsibilities. She's taken over the drug and alcohol testing, civil service, various HR functions working.
The trainings that we've been going
Yeah, the
to.
trainings, she's been very involved in that, and a lot of the accounting work that she was doing is going over to Nicole. So we're trying to use the workforce as they're best suited, and she comes from more of a payroll HR background, so she'll be attending some more training classes and just making it work, and she's done a great job, so.
So this is a reallocation of responsibilities. So as the money went into your department,
Well, hiring Nicole, yeah,
Right.
was an immediate $50,000, so all of that went away and more.
so some of, the money went to her salary and then some of your other staff's responsibilities shifted onto
Right.
Nicole.
Yep.
And they
And I
are
have to
taking on
say,
the
we-
HR
We
responsibilities.
did it as
Okay.
efficiently as possible. We squeezed Nicole into Janet's office. If anyone wants to come up and take a look, we put a workstation together from miscellaneous spare parts that were scattered throughout the building in the basement, and it looks nice. And it came out nice. It's did what we could. We're tight, but we didn't expand beyond our boundaries. So that was, we are tight in there, though. I'll tell you that.
Thank you.
And that answers my questions. Thank you.
In miscellaneous, that was a little high, so we brought that down to offset some of these other increases. That's about it. Question?
Are there any line items, for instance, independent auditor, any of those ancillary lines that you'd like to cover that we may not get to just
Yeah.
by the nature of the fact that's not within a specific department?
Right. So auditor, which should be on,
Independent auditors, the next page,
where
4.
we go for.
You only raised it up 1,000.
Yeah, 1,000. That one's a tough one. It's one of the big drivers in that is if we need a federal, a single audit, and that's dictated based on whether or not we receive more than 750,000 in federal aid. We're kind of on it was 500 for years, and we were going over it regularly, and now they raised it to 750 a couple years ago, and we have our HUD program goes upwards of 400,000. So it sounds like a lot, but HUD is part of it. So that's over half of it. So if we get some FEMA storm damage, or, you can easily go over that, and that's a $5,000 add-on. So 31 could be high, and then again, but it could be low. And then again, there's been some discussion about bidding out auditing services. We've been with our current auditors for, I think, 5+ years. I like them, but they're my 5th audit firm I've worked with. I haven't had any trouble with any of them. And speaking of which, we just got our audit finalized for 18, so I'm going to be distributing that shortly. It's clean, no exceptions, no problems.
Great, Paul.
Everything's wonderful.
Perfect.
It's Niskuna.
It's perfect. That's great. Thank you very much for your hard work.
So auditing, there may be a little room in there, but you can see 2017, we almost did 28. I'm kind of reluctant to, I put in, and the audit industry's changed also. They have a lot of peer reviews now, and their expenses have gone up dramatically. There's a lot of hoops that they have to jump through that they didn't used to have to. So there's not much there. Let's see, what else do I get involved in?
You get involved in
special-
everything. Are you going to talk about shared services and special items?
Yeah, I was
don't know
going
how
to
far we want to go, right?
Shared services, the only, we rolled over this 17,000 for equipment. We're in need of a copier in this building, but that's more for building upkeep than a copier. I'm hoping to get the copier this year because I don't know if any of you have used it, but you can see on these
Yeah.
copies, it's not good.
It's not good.
And,
Denise is having problems with her.
Yeah.
with,
Denise having problems with her copies. It's
Yes.
got
it's not
Definitely
good.
the
No,
copies.
honestly, Janet had problems with it and she told me that. I didn't think I thought
Just
there was just
busting your chops. It's there one time a year where
No.
we can do it.
I thought there was a quality problem, which you can see there's lines down at the sides are gray. It's leaking toner all over it. We need a new copier, but that doesn't explain missing pages.
Oh.
But I do, I think we're going to be having to purchase that copier this year. So there is no increase in there. I'm just throwing that out because it's about $4,500. The electricity and heating fuel, all of that, we analyzed our current usage and extrapolated and put on a little add-on. I think it was 3%. That's been pretty stable. Let's see what other, some of this I get from other departments, but everything else is pretty flat, really, for the most part. On page 7's unallocated insurance, I got a little bit of feedback from our broker, Marshall and Sterling, that they are shopping and have a good, they're giving us some initial positive news as far as the market being positioned pretty good. We're not looking at any huge increases. They bid it every year. They have a couple new companies they're going to go out to. It doesn't renew till May, so it's kind of early to tell where it's, we just renewed in May. It's kind of early to get much of a read on it, but hopefully that'll be good. The contingent account was lowered to 70 from 90. That actually had some money for, it went up in a year where there was some planned expansion in my office that didn't occur. So that's kind of one of the reasons it dropped back down now that we have additional staffing. And
Go back to the judgments and claims line there, 10,000.
Oh, sorry.
Talk
Yep.
to me about that a little bit because that line was very minimal and then now it's
yeah, that's all over the place.
$1,000. It's
Well, it can be, we can pay, virtually any claim that comes into the town, but sometimes if they're small, we pay the towns and city report where there's certiorari's and judgments against, that go through the county pays and we pay them back. Usually those amounts are much more significant. We raise the money through taxes. I just talked to the county and they gave me a number of, I think, $40,000. So we don't have $40,000 to pay those claims. Smaller, you can see the history has been lately. If you go back further, there's been more significant claims against the town, but I guess you could roll the dice on that and drop it. Looking at the history, it looks like there's way too much money in there, but I know the more past history, and it's been over 10. Maybe I can provide that and get a better feel for it.
Well, that's probably a good idea. I mean, when we look at this category here and then we look at the contingent account when it was at, 90, 100, now we're dropping it to 70.
Right. But the contingent account was 50 for many years before it was raised to 100. the problem with contingency, when you look at actuals, we always spend all our contingencies. So 18 was budgeted at 100,000, 17 was 50,000, and 16 was 50,000. But when you actually go through the year, it's all, you never spend out a contingency, you transfer it to
Transfer it to
the
something
line.
else.
So they always show as zero. So it was raised in 18, dropped in 19, and we're still 20,000 more than 17 and 16's original budget. And it was raised with the intent of some new personnel, which have been now put in place. But judgment and claims, you could look at that. I'd like to give you some further history, and maybe that might make you change your mind. Or it could be reduced. It is a tough year. I don't like building contingencies in lines. I say that all the time. All the departments try to build their own contingency in their department, and that's what this
Right.
kind of is. So when if you see 3 years of $200, actually, let me just take a quick peek at 19. So I have a kind of a current printout of this year. We're at 2,800 right now. So you have 3 200s and a 2,800, and I don't know what 15 was.
Okay.
It may be high.
Well, we could move it to contingency.
You could do that, or you could eliminate, or anything in between.
All right, we'll leave it there for now, and we can continue to talk about it.
Some of the little lines on page 9, veterans was left flat. We have the ability to pay them $500 in support of any projects they have in their operations. And the economic assistance, that is the Mohawk Towpath.
They requested
They
a
requested.
doubling of their fee. Okay,
Mhm.
that's,
We actually doubled it in 19, and and we put in the same amount. They've always requested 600, and we've traditionally paid them 300,
okay.
but we're up to their requested amount. And I did check on a couple of the surrounding towns, and they're paying the higher amount, so we were underfunding comparatively.
I remember the conversation. Okay, are there any other little items for you?
The whole benefits section we can talk about.
I actually do want to go back to the health insurance because,
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
page 16.
okay, great. So 15% increase is a pretty high number. You've been given indications of that, or this is what you're guessing at? I mean, because I'm not really hearing that on the street. I know what the governor approved for plans. It was not close to 15. So I'm just trying to get a feel for
Yeah.
how this could be so different than what businesses are paying, what everybody else is paying, what the state is saying is going to happen.
Yeah, that's the number we're getting from CDPHP, and actually, it could even be higher. They haven't given us a firm number yet.
Mhm.
They started at 15, and they started talking about more. But Marshall and Sterling is going out to the market, looking at other options. MVP is one of them. Schenectady-based, they're looking for business, so maybe we can do better. And MVP, we do use MVP for the gold plan for Medicare Advantage plan. That's at 5.4%.
Mhm.
So, but that's, driven by, Medicare absorbs a lot of that cost. It's a supplemental plan, so there's a lot more stability.
Sure.
The plan we switched to with CDPHP is partially experience-based.
Right, that's what I was going to ask you. Is this based on, is this
It is.
huge bump based on usage?
It is. We got hit really hard in 18, and it's reflected now.
Right, so 18 was our first year under the
No,
new.
17, which was a good year. People,
17 is when we started it.
Correct.
18, we would have seen, the number we would have gotten them for 18 would have reflected the experience of 17.
right,
Yeah.
18 wasn't bad. And now we have 18's experience and half a year of 19, or more than half a year. And they're, taking note of it. I think the plan is so good and such, it has very little out-of-pocket expense that people are really utilizing it. And, that's.
So does the plan need to be?
Is what?
Does the plan need to be looked at?
Well, no, we negotiated the plan and you can go to the union to restructure the benefits, we'd have to renegotiate. And if you start taking the plan down, they're going to want something.
No,
else.
that's a big number.
It is, it's a huge number, but I would say that we're still paying less than if we stayed where we were in a community rated plan.
Sounds good.
That number is even bigger. So we did the right thing by switching. It's just that there was you can look at the experience, we actually went, down in 17, down in 18, but, 19 is hitting us. So, yeah, our budget really isn't that much. And if you look at 15, I think it was again at around 1.4 million. So if you look at it cumulatively over 5 years, it's, I don't know, say not that bad. Health insurance has gone up 10% for the last 15 years. It just every year. A good year is 7,
Okay, yeah. That's where I thought it was going to be.
And
It's
we had
more
a-
along
and we
there.
had several
10
flat-
maybe.
But we had several zeros, so we're averaging in now a 15. It really isn't bad.
Okay.
It doesn't sound good, but it
Looking at
isn't bad.
Over a 5-year period.
Yeah. You show me another organization that's done that. I don't know.
I don't think it's a criticism. We're just trying to understand.
No, I know,
it,
but
right?
I'm
If
just trying to
it's being
point
listed
out
as the
that-
largest budget driver.
Yeah, but you've got to factor in that the
Okay.
costs have been kept down over time.
Well, we
Correct.
want to monitor it. Maybe we're getting to a plateau, hopefully, and it's not going to keep
Right.
going like that.
But it is a real number unless we can find some alternative that will provide the same level of coverage. To negotiate a plan redesign is next to impossible. And,
No, Paul, what you've done with this is fantastic. We've said it time and time again. It's just a startling number. That's all.
I
And
agree.
we're not
I
seeing
was-
it in other places. We're not seeing it in the private sector. So,
I was blown away when they told me. I just couldn't believe it.
okay. All right. Well, is there anything else in here?
Unfortunately, debt service is pretty flat, which is great. The risk retention I reduced to 0. That funds our workers' comp reserve, and we have that one settlement that we discussed months ago. Still hasn't happened, but it has been approved. They're just going through the process, and when we pull that large claim off of our what we have 12 long-term claims from the time we were self-insured before we went with Right Risk, the Comp Alliance. We still have to manage, Right Risk doesn't handle our self-insured claims. We still have to pay PMA, which is the management company
Right.
that administers those self-insured claims. We have a dozen of them. There's one that accounts for about a third of our reserves. Once we pay that out, it's very evident that our reserves are adequate and we don't have to fund it. So there's 10 here, there's money in the highway. I think it amounted to 40-some thousand across the whole 5 operating funds. So that's good news. We are paying workers' comp insurance, which you can see up above for $115,000, but you can see also in 17, we had actually transferred 136,000, 135 and 16. So 136 has been knocked down to 115 over time. So we're trying to manage that the best we can. I'd like to, some of these claims we probably will never close just because they don't make sense to close, but we are looking at them. I talk to the reps continually. Not as much as I used to because we're not introducing any new claims, so it's definitely been nice. You want to go into other funds or do you want to?
No, we'll go through them as we
Okay.
have the
Mhm.
department head here.
Do we want to touch on revenues now, or do we want to do that last?
I'd rather do it last. I think we
Okay.
did it like that last year. I think it kind of worked, right?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. Okay.
I want to hear what they all have to say.
We have nothing, right? Nothing else that's ancillary, I don't think.
You're just going to get us that additional information.
Mhm.
Well, parks, drainage and lighting, they're,
Right, but we always do those with those guys sitting there, so,
okay.
yeah, I
mean,
prefer to do
I
that.
mean, the special districts parks, not
Yeah.
parks in the general fund.
Right, but this, all the special district stuff, we usually do well
Okay.
matter. Someone is sitting here, so, right, so then you're going to get us the Rich Pollock number,
The Rich Pollock number.
the percentage of everybody's salary that go to the special districts.
Yes, he lives on.
I know, he does live on Tyler for 10 years, 8 years I listened to him.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a reasonable.
All right.
This was excellent. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Our next budget workshop is Thursday, October 10th at 5 p.m. right back here in this room. So everyone have a good night.
Okay, you too. Thank you.